What's going on, my friends? My name is Jason. I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I do a whole bunch of tips, tricks, tutorials, reviews on photography and videography stuff. But today we're going to be talking about exposing correctly with the A7 IV. Now, there are a lot of people out there recommending different techniques, especially just the multimetering and saying expose 1.7 stops, overexpose for S-Log3. And this is correct, but this is also incorrect. But hold on, wait a second. Before you get into those comments, let me explain what I actually do and what a lot of other professionals do on set as well. Now, I know light meters are a very, very common thing when it comes to DPs and stuff, when it comes to film sets. It is a very old technique. Light meters were around for so many years. And no, we're not going to go through the history of light meters and who actually uses them, how old the technology is. We're going to go through a whole bunch of techniques that a lot of young filmmakers and current day filmmakers actually use, and is really, really helpful for your filmmaking and exposing correctly. The new technology is getting so good right now, specifically this thing right here, false color. This is what we're actually going to be talking about and how to expose correctly with your A7 IV, FX3, A7S III, FX6, whatever camera you have. False color is hands down the best exposure tool, and I am going to explain why and why you should be using it right now. Now, you just have to remember, majority of cameras don't actually have false color within the camera. I know no Sony camera has false color in the camera. You're actually going to have an external monitor to make this happen. And if you are shooting video, most likely you're going to have an external monitor anyway. And I've been shooting with the Ninja 5 just so I can show you guys my settings, because you can record. But I actually don't use the Ninja 5 with any of my professional commercial stuff. I actually use this one right here. This is the Portkeys HS7T. Now, it is a big 7-inch monitor, but I prefer that larger 7-inch monitor, especially if I am doing real critical focusing, checking my exposure correctly, even checking my framing and composition on a bigger screen. 5-inch, just isn't enough for me. But the great thing about this monitor is that it has that false color. Now, it doesn't have like full touchscreen capabilities. Now, I was all for touchscreen in the past. Like, touchscreen was everything. I had to have touchscreen. It's a way of the future. But when it came to a lot of my professional works, sometimes when it's cold, I would have gloves on and you try and touch the screen. Nothing works. You have to take the gloves off, then touch the screen, put the gloves back on. It is a pain. But the great thing about this one is it has 4 customizable buttons at the top, which 1, I have my focus peaking, and 2, I have my false color, and you can program to anything else on the other ones, histograms or zebras as well when it comes to trying to get your correct exposure. You could do waveform if you really wanted to, RGB split. It's up to you, but I always have false color and focus peaking at the top, so I can just quickly switch between the two, and then you can go back to normal mode. You can check your exposure quickly. But the con with actually exposing 1.7 or 2 times overexposed is that the multimetering, you can put it in a few different settings of where it actually finds that exposure, but generally it is left in overall image. So it takes everything from the image. It's like, yeah, okay, we're 1.7-ish times, overexposed, which is, what you should be. But this doesn't take into account of skin tones and contrast ratios. Now, lighting, filmmaking is all about contrast ratios and what is actually acceptable for you in your screen. If your actor is very underexposed and your background is very overexposed, that could be a desired look. Sure, it could be a silhouette, but you actually want to try and expose predominantly for the actor. Whether that specific actor is underexposed or specific character, subject is underexposed for a purpose, then that's cool, but you need to understand the exact exposure of that level in comparison to the background as well. And that's the big thing what false color actually does. It gives you the exact point of what the exposure is on pretty much everything in the screen. It'll give you a scale down the bottom. If it's on this monitor, if it's on the side, some monitors do it on the side, really depends, but this one's at the bottom. If it's pure red or yellow, it's generally completely overexposed. That's pure white. Sometimes if it's yellow, it's almost pure white. It's almost blown out, but not quite blown out. But if you are getting some red in there, then it's just pure white. There's no information, you've lost it. And multimetering doesn't really take that into account. Whereas false color, you can see exactly where your hotspots are. And you know, I always try and gauge, is that a hotspot there for a reason? Is it a light? Generally lights, like pure exposed lights, hotspots, that's cool. It is what it is. But it really depends on how you want to expose for the scene. And then you can see what are pure blacks. This one is pretty much dark blue. Sometimes it's like a really bright pink or something. And if it is dark blue, then you know it's pure black. There's no information, it's pure black. If you try and bring that up in post, you'll probably bring a whole bunch of grain. There may not be even any detail, depending on the dynamic range of your camera as well. Okay, so this is a prime example that I shot with my wife. You can see here that the background is relatively exposed, so is the skin tones. The skin tones are roughly about 70-ish%, which is correct. It's a little dark, and I've just turned the lights off, and you can see on the background when I raise the exposure, you can see the skin tones start to get exposed, but the background is blown out. So I am exposing 4 skin tones, but not worrying about the background. You can see all the red in the false color, which means that's completely blown out. That's pure white with no detail. The yellow is about 100%. There's a little bit of detail. It's almost blown out. But you can see the skin tones are correctly exposed, but in my opinion, the image looks horrendous. Okay, so we turn the light back on and everything is blown out. So there's pure whites and you can't bring anything back. So now I've chucked it in S-Log3. So you can see down the bottom here with multimetering, it's plus 2.0 and it is flashing. And there is a little hotspot on the top of her forehead there. You can see that yellow point. That is a hotspot. It's at about 100%. I've just toned it back and the skin tones are exposed correctly, but it's still flashing 2.0. So this is correct exposure, yet multimetering saying it's overexposed. So this is a prime example that you can't trust multimetering as much as you can with false color because it shows you the exact lighting representation of that spot. But that's the great thing about that is you can see exactly where it's completely black, completely underexposed or completely overexposed. You can judge by the colors on the screen. Now, in terms of what number you want to actually keep specific things on, generally, my general rule is I try not to blow anything out. I try and keep details in the shadows and I try and keep all the details in the highlights and then keep everything in between 0 and 100 as much as I can. It really depends on the scene. And then I can work with it in post. That's perfectly fine. But if I am blowing out my skies to try and really keep my actor exposed correctly, that may not be the best option. So when it does come to the EV or multimetering at the bottom, you know, your plus 1.7, that is a good guide. Absolutely still use that. That's a great guide. It gives you a general idea of what's happening in your scene. If it starts flashing 2.0 and it's flashing, then you know, yeah, you're pretty overexposed. And then you flick it into false color mode and you're like, okay, where's overexposed? Is there blown out spots? Let's bring that exposure down. Let's increase the ND on that filter. It depends. It gives you a general idea to work with, but false color is probably one of the best things to do. The best feature that I actually love about this, and it may not apply to you, but it's actually got pass-through power at the back here that I can put my, wait one sec. So this is the Axoon Cine-Eye 2S Pro, and the great thing about this is that it clips directly into there, and that is actually powering my video transmitter. So if I do want to put this to my director's monitor or to any other monitor, wireless follow focus person, my first AC, and if he's doing a whole bunch of focusing, this is connected directly into here. So there's no other battery that's going to be powering this. It's so handy to have just less cords, less batteries, and the Portkeys monitor here is actually powered through DTAP. that is one of the biggest reasons why I actually use V-Lock batteries and D-taps, because you can power pretty much everything from there, including your camera, which I did in another video. You can check that video after this one, obviously. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. That would be absolutely amazing. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you already haven't. And yeah, guys, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, whatever you want to call it. I hope you're staying safe through this holiday period, and I'll see you guys in the new year. This will most likely be my last video of the year, so I'll see you guys in the new year. All right, let's get it.